Have you ever wondered, how do we fix problems? I'm not talking about like the little problems like changing a light bulb or something small like that. I'm talking about the big problems, the problems that we have that in order to fix, we've got to change hearts and minds. I'm talking about the problems where to actually change something, we would need a cultural shift. How do we change those kinds of problems? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So let's get into it. Any type of a leader, whether it be a pastor, a teacher, parent, any type of leader, you're going to have some problems that need changing. You want some course correction. And how do you do that? Well, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize these changes don't happen overnight. They take time. It's not simple. It's not easy. But how do we change those? One thing that has been life transforming for me is I've been studying through the 5 first books of the Bible, the books of Moses. And in Exodus, you have this profound thing happen. They are leaving Egypt and they are setting off to create a whole new nation. And I can only imagine the types of speeches that Moses may have been envisioning there, the things he may have been thinking about to cast vision for who do we want to be. He could have talked about freedom. He could have talked about the promised land, the place they were going. But instead, he goes in a completely different route, something that blows your mind, because what does he talk about in this speech? This speech to cast a vision for transforming slaves into a nation of God's people. What is the speech? It's about children. Children, you might say. That doesn't make sense. But children. And he instructs them to make sure that they're telling their children about these events, to teach the children to ask questions, to engage the children. You see, it's when we teach our children that we are really setting ourselves up for a better future. If you want to change the course of history, that begins with education. We need to teach our children at every possible moment. We need to teach them how to ask questions, how to wrestle with things, and we need to be telling them our stories, telling them the stories of what God has been doing in our lives. Jonathan Sacks, in his book, Lessons on Leadership, has this beautiful quote, and I just want to read it for you here. So the Jews became the only people in history to predicate their very survival on education. The most sacred duty of parents was to teach their children. Passover itself became an ongoing seminar on the handling of memory. Judaism became the religion whose heroes were teachers and whose passion was study and the life of the mind. The Mesopotamians built ziggurats, the Egyptians built pyramids, the Greeks built the Parthenon, the Romans built the Colosseum. Jews built schools. That is why they alone, of all the civilizations of the ancient world, are still alive and strong, still continuing their ancestors' vocation, their heritage intact and undiminished. That really blew my mind. This idea that if we want to change the world, instead of focusing on the here and now, instead of focusing on our next steps, we need to be intentional about casting our vision long-term for the future. We need to cast our vision on our children. How do we want our children to be? What kind of world do we want them to grow up in? And we need to start educating them that way. This is why I believe in Adventist education. This is why I believe we need to be sending our kids to Adventist schools, equipping them to be the church we want to be. But also, this is why I believe in Pathfinders, Adventures, Sabbath School. All of these things are ways that we can best equip and train our kids. But as parents, these can't just merely be drop-off activities. We also have to be involved. We can't just drop our kids off and hope that someone else is going to educate them the way God is calling us to. That doesn't cut it. As parents, we have got to take critical roles. Get involved in your school. Take part in Sabbath school. Join the leadership of Adventures and Pathfinders. Because together, as the body of Christ, we have the ability to make this church what it needs to be. Together, we can educate our kids so that the problems of today don't have to be the problems of tomorrow. After all, there's only one way to change the world, and that is through education. If this video has added value to your life, if you have enjoyed it, please share it. But also, feel free to like and subscribe, because those algorithms help this channel to continue. I know that it's been a while since I posted my last video, but I'm excited to move forward and continue sharing the things I'm learning so that we can be the best we can be, not only as parents, not only as a church, but as followers of Jesus Christ.